It has been quite a while that I have been discussing Cosmos Atom on this channel. I got this requested in one of the comments. And so here's the update. Last time we discussed Cosmos Atom was 7 months ago. And that video was titled Why $36 is Expensive for Cosmos Atom. Now, this is a chart I was looking at the time. And what we can see is a long-term underperformance with a relatively heated price in that downwards trend. Now, this is the update to that chart. $36 have indeed been relatively expensive for Atom. We are now looking at $9 per token. Still, the cryptocurrency is at market rank 30 in terms of market cap. So it's the 30th largest cryptocurrency. We are looking at $2.6 billion. Now, this is a chart you usually do not see for Cosmos Atom. It's much more likely you are familiar with this chart over here, or maybe even with this one. This is Cosmos Atom in US dollars on a linear scale. This is Cosmos Atom in US dollars on a logarithmic scale. And following this chart, the potential risk, which might be pretty low, versus the potential return is quite interesting, right? Risk versus reward. Is this the time to buy Atom? Now, what is this chart then? This is the relative valuation to Ethereum. Now, why Ethereum? Why not Bitcoin? This is Atom versus Bitcoin. I personally like to look at relative valuations to Ethereum more for most altcoins because of two reasons. First, I think most altcoins are a technology play. Bitcoin is not necessarily a technology play, right? It's a store of value play. It's a macroeconomic play. It's a play on monetary expansion, on inflation, on the stability of the US dollar. Most altcoins, however, are in this game of what technology is going to be adopted, what kind of blockchain is going to be adopted, what team can attract the most capital. And in that regard, we should then look at how are upcoming projects doing to the incumbents in relative terms. So when you've got something with more risk, right, where there's only 0.2% of all of crypto in that particular asset, and you've got more risk, you should expect more return. Ethereum, as a comparison, has around 20% of all of crypto's market cap in its value. So in other words, Cosmos Atom is around 2 orders of magnitudes smaller. Ethereum is 100 times larger, and so you should expect an outperformance for getting that much more risk in your portfolio. This is not what we have seen over the long term. Now, where does this underperformance come from? There are several explanations for this, right? There are quite a few blockchains that are actually built on the Cosmos SDK. Terra Luna was definitely the largest of the bunch. With the implosion, this has definitely changed. Now, Kava seems to be the largest in terms of total value locked. That's according to DeFi Llama. Now, this is the liquidity supply curve of Cosmos Atom. We have now a pretty constant supply increase since February of 2021. So that's all for block rewards. According to Messari.io, the current inflation rate is at 5.9% per annum, which is not too bad for an altcoin. Most altcoins have a higher inflation rate. Now, the current negative momentum might be somewhat broken, right? We have broken out of the trend in January of this year. We might also see somewhat of a support now. We haven't directly come down in December of last year, right? We could have fallen way more during this move. Instead, we rose relatively quickly. So are we actually now transitioning from this long-term downwards trend to a sideways movement? It's definitely possible. If that's what's going to happen, we see a potential risk of maybe 15% to an outperformance of 180% or so. Now, I still like to see the rebound to a certain degree. And what I like to use is moving averages. And the question is, when we use a moving average, let's maybe take some of those trend lines from the chart. When we use that moving average, we have to consider what kind of a duration do we take? What is more or less most representative of the kinds of waves that we want to ride? And so when we reduce the duration here, we potentially have more failed signals. The moving average gets closer to the price, but on the other hand, we also enter and exit more often. Now, currently we are obviously in a short-term bearish movement, but we could take a cross as a potential buying signal. And then depending on how often we want to buy or sell, we could adjust the duration here. So here we've got still quite a few bad signals, right? Historically, this didn't work too well, so I'm rather inclined to increase the duration here a bit more. Let's see until we filter out most of those bad signals. When we are, let's say, at around 55 or so, we're pretty much filtering all of this noise. And once we cross here a single time, we tend to go upwards again, right? Same is true here. We crossed once, we tend to go upwards. And here we do have some kind of a failed signal, but it's not that bad because we buy and sell pretty much at the same prices. So it still seems to be relatively reliable for generating the right signals. We also didn't get the wrong signal here. We didn't cross. So I think the 55-day tends to work relatively well. And so this is probably the best way to approach this. We can't be certain that this negative momentum has already been broken, right? The potential negative scenario is still not that pretty if we can't hold the line. That being said, there is upside. And so what I think is probably the best is to wait until we have consolidated, gone sideways at least for a while, or maybe suddenly see a surprise rally of like 25% versus Ethereum. In that case, we are not buying at the absolute bottom, but that's okay because in the end, crypto is a game of risk versus reward. And this support over here is very, very encouraging because it tends to indicate that the free fall has somewhat stopped. But I wouldn't bet the farm on this that this can repeat again. So especially in the current rather bearish market environment where Bitcoin tends to move sideways or down, where there's not a lot of optimism, it does make sense to be rather too cautious than too optimistic. And obviously there is inherent leverage in altcoins, right? When Bitcoin is coughing, then the altcoins, they get a cold. So a 2% drop in Bitcoin might mean a 5 or 6% drop for Cosmos Atom. So if you're not just handling with play money here, but if you want to really invest something sizable, then let's rather be sure that most of the pessimism has already been realized in the price. So is the situation as clear as in October of last year? Not necessarily. We do see a stabilization, but I still think it's too early to catch the falling knife. It's probably better to see where we are headed in the next weeks. And if we can simply just go sideways for a few weeks relative to Ethereum, then we might be in a good position to take on some risk. If you haven't yet subscribed, feel free to do so because I publish videos regularly. There's also a free Telegram group. Simply search for Bitcoin Strategy Channel within the Telegram app. We are now 2,000 people over there. And if you're interested in getting support directly, I can, for example, analyze your portfolio, or I can look at your favorite altcoin. Feel free to check out thebitcoinstrategy.com. That's the premium membership. So a lot of exclusive content there as well. More information regarding that is in this video here. So hope to see you in that video, and thanks for watching this one. Bye-bye.